And often they judge their level of their religion or their connection with Allah by their mood, right? And what they make an equivalence with is mood. So for them, mood equals religiosity. Or mood, or how high you are, spiritually high you are, equals how close you are to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's not necessarily the case. Do you think that when Ibrahim was sacrificing his son, just imagine you get a young child, you place them there, on their side, وَتَلَّهُ لِلْجَبِينَ, the Quran says.
And it's your child.
And it's your child, yes, exactly. And you take a knife, and you go like this. Do you think he was feeling a spiritual high when he was doing that? Have you been to Hajj? Anybody? Anybody been to Hajj? Nobody? Too far? Yeah. Maybe you might disagree with me, but when you're actually in the Hajj, maybe afterwards, right? But when you're in the Hajj, it's a very difficult thing. It's very gritty, right? Malik, did you feel? I don't know. You might be saying yes now. Did you feel spiritually high? You too. Okay. You saved me. You don't necessarily feel when you're sleeping in Mina and the sun's on top of you. You don't feel necessarily that you've got this spiritual high. You don't. And the ulama say, they say that person that prays and finds it difficult to pray, that person is more rewarded than the person who prays and they find it easy to pray. They find it easy to pray. Why? Because you're doing something even though you don't want to do it. Ibrahim didn't want to sacrifice his son, right? Yaqub wasn't feeling a spiritual high when his son Yusuf alayhi salam was lost. Right? He wasn't feeling a spiritual. He actually went blind with sadness. That's not a spiritual high, right? So what I'm saying to you guys is that this is all to do with knowledge, by the way. This is epistemology, this is knowledge, this is how to interact with knowledge that's outside of Islam. When things are being brought into vocabulary, has a direct correlation with the way you think. So my suggestion would be that when we talk about vocabulary, the vocabulary that God chooses is far superior than the vocabulary that other people choose. And there are many examples of this, by the way. Okay. So if it's not spirituality, what is that thing what is that highest ideal that we should be kind of aiming for in Islam? What is the ideal that Islam aims for? Sorry? Sabr, yeah? Sabr? Taqrib, yeah, to go close to Allah, yeah? To worship Allah, yeah, that's ihsan, yeah? Sorry? Huh? Conviction, yaqeen, yeah, conviction. Okay. These are all aspects under one greater rubric, in my opinion, right? And not just my opinion, it's what the scholars say. Ibn al-Qayyim says this in his Madarij al-Salikin. The highest station of a person is ubudiyah. Is slavery. Right? When Ibrahim, sorry? Servitude, yeah. I prefer slavery because the Arabs understood it at that time. Yeah. Abd means slave. Yeah. Abd means slave. And when Ibrahim was doing what he did, right? That was slavery to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what it was. Right? And this is the highest. It's not ruhaniyah. It's not that you feel this. Another thing that people do nowadays, it kind of slightly irks me this. It's just this new trend. Whenever you've all had this, right? If you get a WhatsApp message of somebody's, of some kind of religious reminder, there has to be a nasheed on in the background. Right? SubhanAllah, that puts me off, honestly. Why do you have to have a nasheed? I mean, do we need a nasheed behind the Quran? Allah could have revealed a nasheed with the Quran, Why do we need a mood? The greatest progress that you make in your connection with Allah comes not through a process of creating mood. It comes through a process of thinking. Right? And this is why the Quran time and time again urges us to think أَفَلَا يَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Right? This is the Quran time and time again urges us to contemplate and to think. And this is what Ibrahim did. Ibrahim alayhi salam, he thought and he arrived at the realities that we talked about before, by the way, which was the creator, the purposefulness of this whole everything here. And we should bear this in mind. So we should bear this in mind that, and this is why then we got groups coming about that then, to achieve this, and it's this vocabulary that's partly to blame. And that what they end up doing is they end up engaging in certain exercises, rigors, to get them to reach a certain state. Because what they're aiming for is the mood. What they're not aiming for is what the Quran and the Sunnah want us to aim for. They're aiming for mood. And that's why some of them even take drugs, right? And some of them dance around in repetitive motions, and you've seen the whirling dervishes go round and round. What is it? It's all about ruhaniyah. It's all about achieving some kind of mood. Okay, so anyway, so what I wanted to say was, this point about knowledge being general, and what is useful is good, and what is not useful is not good. Now, given the fact that knowledge is a broad thing, I want to. Okay, this was my slide that I've just talked about, which you can see it: sacred versus non-sacred, useful versus non-useful, caution vis-a-vis external terminology. Okay, now I want to propose some observations to you guys. Then we're going to discuss these in tables. So this is the list. The first one: knowledge is power. Okay. Number 2, the degree to which we have access to knowledge impacts our ability to make informed decisions. Okay? Number 3, knowledge is an individual responsibility and right. Number 4, the types of knowledge a society or person values depends on what they ultimately value. And number 5, all knowledge is not equal. All knowledge is not equal. Okay, so these are some general observations that I'm proposing, right? So you don't have to agree. What I'd like to ask you is, to what extent do you agree? Do you agree or disagree? And to what extent and why? And to what extent do you think these observations are applicable to Islamic knowledge? Yeah?
What is Islamic knowledge?
Very good question. Very good question. Very good question. Very good. You see, yeah, I'm going to come on to that. And I know there's a preempting.
Islamic and say some sort of Islamic.
Sorry?
To what extent?
So Islamic knowledge, for the purpose of this, let's define it as knowledge of Islam that arises out of the Quran or the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, and any disciplines that assist in that, Arabic or
right.
Yeah.
My observation.
Okay.
In the way how people deal with knowledge.
So
what they call quote unquote.
Yeah.
Islamic knowledge, sacred knowledge, what.
Yeah.
Is more the law, the legal aspect of things.
Oh no, it's not that. Yeah, it's not law.
No.
You see, most of the Quran is not law.
So I know. But
So yeah.
Say the way how people define.
Oh, absolutely. No, thank you. Sure.
This is the way.
Sure.
So they call it, judgment.
Yes. No, Jazakallah, it's an important point to clarify,
So
yeah.
that is why I want, if you're saying Islamic knowledge, how to define that? So you can make that consultation because earlier we're talking about knowledge are beneficial and non-beneficial.
Yeah.
So what is Islam?
I think for the purposes of this, define it yourselves. Because you see, there is a bit of circularity to this, because I want to come on to that a bit later, but I still want to introduce it now. So maybe it's a good idea that you guys just discuss amongst yourselves what even you think Islamic knowledge is if you want to. But just, just take it generally, and then, we'll talk about it a bit later. So define it as you want to at the moment. Okay.
So for this exercise, we want everybody in groups of 4.
Okay.
All right, so 4 rather than 6. If you are 6, make yourself in groups of 4. Right. Go to the next table.
Sorry? What time are we on now?